Hello, 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 and welcome. Now, in today's interview, I'm going to be talking about how to slay at sales with none other than the amazing Indira Pierrot, who helps ladies know how to sell more, slay more, and sleaze less over at IndiraPierrot.com. Now, just in case, we've never met before, perhaps this is your first time coming across me, before I continue, I want to take the time to introduce myself, okay? So, my name is Nina Dafe, and I'm the founder and the editor of the Far Above Rubies Collection.com, where I help Christian women to know their worth, their power, and their purpose so that they may speak up, step out, and shine as the awesome women of God that He created them to be. And if that's something that sounds like your cup of tea, right up your alley, then definitely consider hitting the subscribe button below. You also want to stick around because by the end of this interview, you're going to walk away knowing some of the common, I would say, pitfalls that we tend to kind of be subject to when it comes to sales, so the common myths, misconceptions, and how we can avoid them, okay? We're also going to be talking about the importance of having multiple income streams and why Indira is so passionate about bringing God into the marketplace and how we can actually do that, and loads more. Like, this is packed full of meaty chunks. And Indira does a lot of sharing of great pearls of wisdom, so you definitely want to stick around for that, okay? But before I get into all of the meat and potatoes of this interview, what I'm going to do is a very quick introduction to Indira, and then we'll get right into it, okay? So, bearing with me. As a former stockbroker, network marketer, and current director of business development in a women's empowerment company, Indira Pierrot can confidently say that sales is her jam. She has been dubbed the sales slayer because she helps women entrepreneurs who have a message that they want to shake the world with, but feel like they would rather stab themselves in the eye with a dull pencil than to be aggressive and sleazy in their sales approach. She believes that the reality is you dictate your income as an entrepreneur through two things: your mindset and mastery at sales. Indira has a relationship based approach to sales and believes that true sales mastery is sharing and serving. So, what you won't find her doing is spamming and using hope marketing or doing things for your business hoping it will stick. Nope, none of that. So let her help you level up over at IndiraPierrot.com. And without any further ado, we are going to go straight into the interview. Enjoy. Hey Indira, how you doing?
How are you?
I'm so good. Thank you so much for being with me. Well, for me, it's evening. It's what, the middle of the afternoon for you?
It's 3 p.m. for me. Well,
Okay.
3:10 p.m. for me. Yeah.
Oh, wow. But yeah, thank you so much. So,
Thank you for having me.
my pleasure. Always. But as you know, I've kind of already introduced you to everybody, but I just wanted you in your own words just to kind of let people know who you are and all the amazing things that you do.
Okay, so hello everyone. I am Indira Pierrot, and I have been dubbed the Sales Slayer. What I do is I help women entrepreneurs to sell more, slay more, and squeeze less. And basically, my main premise in my business is I'm here to help you attract, not chase people into your business.
Mm.
And so I have a very relationship based approach to selling and marketing. And I am a believer as well. And so I do incorporate the aspects of, are you doing like what you're called to do, that might be why you're not selling, you know what I
Yeah,
mean, that like those type
absolutely.
of that, those type of things. And so I kind of think it gives like a different perspective on business, but like, are you doing what you're supposed to be doing? And then once we have that clear, then it's like, helping you to be able to sell in ways that feel comfortable, right? So ultimately, before I had been dubbed the sales slayer, I used to, and sometimes I still refer to this, but I used to say I'm the woman entrepreneur's BFF. And I said that the acronym BFF was for Beauty and Freedom Finder.
Mm.
And so I feel like entrepreneurship is a way that women can be called to greater levels of freedom, because obviously if you have a successful business, you have control over your time, and over your, how much income you want to receive and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
that's my thing. That's my jam. That's what I like to get into. So.
Love it. And so how did you kind of end up going down this route? Like how does someone become the sales slayer and all of that sort of jazz? And also I guess how does your faith, play into the journey too?
Okay, so the sales slayer thing, to be honest, like sales has always been something that I've always been doing. So even when I was like 5 years old, I remember I asked my mother for, I want to say it's a Barbie or something or some sort of toy I wanted her to buy me. And like she was taking too long. So I went and I had like, a couple dollars, whatever. So I went and like bought some candies, and I'm like knocking door to door in my apartment.
Oh,
We lived in an
wow.
apartment at that time, and I'm like knocking on the, nowadays it's much more dangerous, but back then, like,
Yeah.
but I'm like knocking on the neighbors' doors to sell them candy for like double what I bought it for, until I could get enough money to buy the doll like by myself. So that's always been, so as early as I can remember, like even, as a kid, like with certain holidays, other kids would want like toys, and I just wanted like money. Like I'm like, I just
Just give me the cash.
like just cash. Like I just want envelopes. Like
I
I've
love
always
it.
been like that. I've always, and so I can, because I knew if I had money, then I could, use it to get even more money, because I'd be able to buy something that I could sell to
Yeah.
other people. So I've always been like that. Then as a teenager, I started doing like phone sales, like cold calling, doing
Oh,
telemarketing and
wow,
stuff like
that's
that.
tough.
And it was 100% commission. And I was like 16, 17 years old, making like $1,000 to $1,200 a week,
Wow.
working like 20 hours, with cold calling, like selling whatever. And I remember thinking to myself, because I was like, I don't have time to like flip burgers and work retail. Like I can. It's always been something like in me. Like I'm like, no, I can just sell stuff.
Yeah.
And so, fast forward to as an adult, I got the opportunity to become a stockbroker. I worked as a stockbroker, which, as you know, is very high, in sales. That's one of the primary functions of a stockbroker.
Yeah.
So I did that for like 5 years. And then during that time is right around the time when I got saved. And so it's just been a combination. So after that, I felt like I wanted to do something where I could more help people. And so I got into, from there, I went into nursing.
Mm.
And then, because backtrack, like with the stockbroker, I got laid off, for something that wasn't my fault.
Oh,
And
wow.
I said that I never wanted to be in that position again. So it was when the World Trade, like 9/11 happened,
Oh,
and
wow.
I got laid off. And so I was like, I never want to feel that way again.
Yeah.
That I could lose my livelihood for for the actions of other people.
Hmm.
And so I got into nursing. And then with nursing, like so I was never like an entrepreneur that was like, this is what I planned. Like from birth, I knew I was meant to be in business. Like I didn't. Some people say they know, I didn't.
Mm.
Um, and so as a nurse, like I used to work so much overtime that I came a point where I went to file my taxes, and the accountant was like, "Listen, you don't have any dependents. You're single. Like, and you working all this overtime, like the IRS is gonna eat you alive if you don't
Oh,
have."
wow.
So the IRS is gonna eat you alive if you don't have some sort of home-based business that you can write off some of these expenses. So that is how I entered into entrepreneurship. Honestly, the
I
beginning,
love it. Writing
it
off
was meant to
taxes.
be just it was just supposed to be a tax write-off. This was not supposed to be like what was popping.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
and so from there, I said, all right, so if I'm gonna do a home-based business, it has to be something that because I don't want to lie. Remember, I'm saved now, right? So
Right.
I don't want to be lying when I'm writing off these expenses. So I was looking at, the things that I've always consistently bought ever since I was like a teen. Has always been makeup and books. Like I could, the take my money here. Like makeup and books, it's on, right? So that's when I started learning makeup artistry. I became a Mac Pro, but again, it was just a hobby to supplement my nursing overtime. And then, I started realizing like when I'm doing women's faces, with the exception of brides, like most women were not happy with what they're doing. Like most women are not happy with their jobs. And through that, talking, that's when I, realized like I have a skill set, so when I'm doing the makeup and stuff, I got into network marketing as well, because I was like, if I'm gonna do people's face, like I want them to be able to, purchase products from me to continue
That makes sense.
to
Yeah.
look good.
Yeah.
So then from there into network marketing, and that's when network marketing is really, I mean, being a stockbroker made me know that I was good at sales for sure. Because I actually, like, you're supposed to have a degree to be a stockbroker, and I didn't have one.
Wow.
But because I did so good in sales as a customer service rep, like they put me through it without a degree.
Wow.
But anyway, going back, so with the network marketing, like I would have one-on-one facials that I do with people, and make in those one-on-one facials what other people who've been in the network marketing industry was doing, like in a group. So that's when I realized, like, okay, there's something to this. Obviously my way of selling, it works. So basically from there, it's just been, process elimination, like what's better. Like if I'm working for a network marketing company, I could be making, 20% commission, or I could be a coach myself, teach people what I know and make 100.
Right.
You know what I mean? Go figure. And so that is what led me to today. So hopefully that wasn't like a long-winded
No,
answer,
do
but
you
I
know
just
what?
really wanted to show you guys like the progression, like how everything kind of stacked up on top of each other. So it was never something where I felt like, I was born to be an entrepreneur. No, I wasn't. You know what I mean?
I think that's the really big nugget that I kind of got from everything that you said as well, in the sense of, I think sometimes that when it comes to purpose, people kind of wait for this big epiphany, this big
Right,
voice, from heaven saying this is what you're supposed to do. And for a lot of people, including myself, that's just not how it happens. Like,
right,
my journey was very much other people saying, you're really good at teaching, you're really good at doing this or that. And because it was just something that I did naturally, I took it very much for granted, and it actually
and you don't even realize exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like how the Bible says your gifts make room for you. It's like you don't even realize it comes to you so easy that you don't even realize it's a gift sometimes. Until people keep bringing it to your attention. Like, so that's when I realized, I'm like, okay, well, obviously, there's something to this. Let me look into it further.
Absolutely.
Sure.
What about, so now that you're kind of in the whole, sales field, and you help other women to do the same thing, like what are some of, I guess, the common sort of myths or, misconceptions that you kind of come across when it comes to selling? I think particularly like in Christian circles as well.
Okay, so
I know, right? Loaded question.
But let me backtrack. I just wanna go back real quick to something that you said before when you were talking about purpose, and I forgot to mention it. A lot of times, God is gonna meet you at the level of your need, and He's gonna meet you like where you at. So if we were to take this in the sense of like a dating relationship, like a dude is not gonna propose to you on the first or second date usually, unless he has maybe been your friend for a long time. I don't know, but sometimes in purpose, if there are things that God has to develop in you, He can't, like, you can't know the whole thing, because then you won't do it. You know what I mean? Because you'll talk yourself out. Like if I had I knew when I was younger, like I felt like, you know, I'm called to do something more. You know, I know I'm not average, I'm not mediocre. You know what I mean? But if I was to actually like, oh no, you're gonna be an entrepreneur, like remember I told you as a little kid, like I love money. And for me, you know, entrepreneur, when I say love money, like not love it like the simple way. I mean, but I meant like, so if you were to tell me leave security to go into, I don't know, I would have been like, no, that's not me. You know what I mean? So I think that I just wanted to piggyback and say a lot of times people, like you said, are searching for this big epiphany of their purpose, where if you were to know the whole thing, like you probably wouldn't go forward. So you can't know the whole thing. Like
I know definitely. Yeah, like definitely for me, if there's someone else who's watching like me, if you know the whole thing, all of a sudden you're just gonna take off running, because I know that was me. Like Jonah complex was was very much me before. So I do think that like even in that, you know, personality wise, like God also knows how much to give you, because
at a time,
you know, depending on who you are, it's just not gonna run.
Exactly. And so to answer the question that you asked me about Christians and selling, so that's a multifaceted answer. But first of all, I will say that, okay, entrepreneurship in and of itself is one of the biggest spiritual journeys that you can ever take, because everything you have is in terms of like your gifts and your weaknesses show up, and they have to be dealt with. Otherwise you just remain, you know, at a plateau, hitting the same wall, hitting the same thing. Most people in general, Christian or not, have difficulty selling because it's either they don't believe in the product that they're selling, or they don't believe in themselves to be able to do it. So it's kind of like when I say they don't believe in the product. So if you feel like something is helpful, you have absolutely no problem sharing it. None. You never go in your mind and be like if I don't know, there's a, or if you feel like it's something that somebody's gonna enjoy, it doesn't even have to be to help. If you feel like it's something somebody's gonna enjoy, you have no problem to talk about it and to share it. None, right? So if you have like this wonderful recipe or this new show that you're watching on Netflix, the first thing you're gonna do is tell, like, you know, the people close to you to check it out.
Absolutely.
For some reason, and we have no problem with it because we truly believe we're helping at that time and we're giving value. So that's where the shift becomes. People who are good at selling, that feeling that you have when you do that, like with those different types of things, that's the feeling that people who are good at selling have for whatever product or service that they're selling. That's why they're good at it. So, but when you have that the uncertainty there, then I'm like, I'm putting myself in a situation to receive money from somebody from something that I don't necessarily believe in. So then you kind of, you know, and then it doesn't also have to be that too. Like, and so with Christians and selling, I would say that the majority of Christians, and I don't want to make like a blanket judgment statement, but the Christian church in general needs to do a better job of dealing with people who have like poverty mindset. There's nothing wrong with being wealthy and Christian, like it's okay. And so a lot of these internal like beliefs that we have show up in the marketplace. You know, we won't be seen the way we need to be seen. We won't show up the way we're needed to show up, because, you know, and sometimes we do these things just out of habit, not even realizing how deeply rooted these beliefs and these issues are. And so I think that that's a big thing with Christians and selling, because to be honest, now if you really want to take it there, like, we should be the best salespeople ever. We should be, because Jesus told us the Great Commission to go and make disciples, right? Isn't that selling people on our beliefs?
Absolutely. True. It's true.
It's not telling people. It's talking to somebody about something that you feel is helpful and life changing for you, and you're sharing it with them and hoping to not convert them to your way of thinking, so that they get help. That's sales in and of itself. You know what I mean? And so we should be the best salespeople there are. Like, should be Christians, because we should be used to it. You know what I mean? So that's just my take on Christianity and selling. Like, that's my opinion.
It's true. I think the biggest thing that you said for me as well was the poverty mindset. Just the amount of people that you come across who think that there's some sort of virtue or holiness, in being poor and seeing it as a sign of humility. And one of the things that I always am struck by in the Bible is the amount of times that God refers to how he wants to lift us up for his glory. Like he wants us to shine our lights, to have good lives, almost to kind of provoke unbelievers into jealousy and like, wait a minute, how did you do that? Oh wait, who's your God? That's what it's about. Your life is actually supposed to draw people.
You would be suffering and broke all the time.
Right, exactly. That's not attractive.
Not me.
No, not me either.
But yeah, definitely I would say it's a lot of that. And then it's just like the Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil, but
not money itself.
It didn't say money itself. It actually, there's a scripture, I wish I remembered it off, which it is, but you probably could Google it after or whatever, put it in the show notes, but it says money answereth all things.
Yeah.
That's a Proverbs.
Yes.
So it's not having the money that's wrong. It's, are you putting the chase of it above God? Are you making it an idol to where he can't use you, or he can't bless you because you're not gonna bless other people with it, or you're gonna try to hoard it to yourself? And so like, other than that, I'm like, there's nothing wrong with being Christian and being wealthy, and I don't see anyone in this day and age, if you're going to be wealthy, entrepreneurship is going to have something to do with it at some point. So whether even if it's inherited, well, somebody in your family was an entrepreneur, like to make the legacy happen. So it's kind of like you can choose to stay, and I don't want to say, like, some people are called to be employees, and some people, like, being an entrepreneur doesn't mean that you don't work for other people. It doesn't mean that you don't serve other people. Like, my business serves other entrepreneurs, you know what I mean? And I have no problem being on teams of helping other women entrepreneurs. So not everyone is meant to be like the full-blown person in the sense that some of us are called to serve under others, and that's totally fine. But the Proverbs 31 woman, homegirl was an entrepreneur. So hey, and if we're always referred to in that scripture to look at her as how to model the life of a Christian woman, I'm just saying.
You're right. There's something in that, right?
I don't be mad that you have a job. Like, hey, I love, working for others too, but that's not my only source. God is my source for everything that I make, but there's more than one stream of revenue in my world. So.
Yeah, it's you also brought to mind when you just said that. I think it's another scripture in Proverbs where Solomon essentially says, sow here and sow there, because you never know which one's going to bring forth fruit. So you can whether it's that you got your 9 to 5 and you're also an entrepreneur, you're a serial entrepreneur, like the Proverbs 31 woman. At the end of the day, like you said, it's about having the multiple streams.
Right. Yeah. And having the option to choose, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of us are living lives where we are working and doing things not because we want to, but because
Yeah.
we feel like we have to.
Mm.
And God came so that we would have life. You know what I mean? So it should be life should be structured in a way to where it's your choice, but it isn't. You don't have to.
Mm.
Type of
No,
thing.
it's true. Absolutely. And so with all this talk about, I guess, Christian women in entrepreneurship and stuff like that, I know I've heard you in the past talk about, bringing God into the marketplace and, that sort of thing. Like, why is that, I guess, something that you feel is so important? I feel like we kind of touched on it a little bit, but, what is it about that, I guess, that is something that lights your fire?
Oh man, it just gets me like so. It's like, okay, I feel like I'm trying to think like how
How best to say, yeah.
with your audience, because I don't want them to be like, oh my god, this girl is okay. So I feel like when you know the story of like David and Goliath, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so okay, when I started my business, even though I was Christian before becoming an entrepreneur, I didn't really like, I just thought it was something to where, God, when I say God is not that serious, like he's more concerned with how you work and how you represent him in the workplace than the actual job, right?
Yeah.
And so I didn't really like, so whether I work as a nurse or whether I work as a makeup artist or a network marketer, whatever, like as long as what I'm doing is bringing him honor, like then that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to be kind of like a relationship with your husband. Like, yeah, if you're married, like your husband doesn't necessarily care like what job you do. It's just he cares like the job allows you time for family type of thing. That was my conception at first, and then I got into entrepreneurship like for real, not just to write off my taxes. Like now it's the total opposite problem. I'm like searching like what. Please don't let them come and get me, Jesus. Like, we went the whole reverse. We're no longer trying to, yeah. But anyway, I digress. So when I got into entrepreneurship, I realized like it is so overrun with witchcraft. Like it is unbelievable. Like it's just, and sometimes, I mean, nowadays the witchcraft is like open. People are like openly like, yeah, I'm a witch.
Yes.
I'm joining my coven. Like it's open, but it's also very subtle too. And so I was like, I had a mentor of mine, and she actually was not Christian, okay, and she was mentoring me or whatever, and we were on a coaching call, and I just was like, I am so like, I was so angry because I was like, why is it that people are paying people, to get a word, or people are paying people to, do readings for them and all this stuff. And I'm like, why don't people just pray?
Right.
Like, and I was like, I just could, for the life of me, like being genuine, like I just couldn't understand it. I just could not understand it. It was like, and it really angered me because I was like this doesn't make any sense to me. Like instead of trying to worship like the universe and have the universe like your genie or whatever, like why don't you just pray?
Yeah.
Why don't you just go back to the source? And so because it struck such a nerve in me, I will never forget that conversation, because she was like, so she gave me like another Christian entrepreneur that she told me to follow or whatever. And she was like, because you guys, this is something that strikes a nerve in her too. And it was like, you don't see Christian women in the marketplace. Like we're not dominating anything. Even men, so I'm gonna say Christians in general are not dominating the marketplace of entrepreneurship. Like we're not. So that's reality, and it angers me to no end. Like, I feel like, you know how David was on the field when everybody was like talking about the Goliath, like,
yeah,
like the mighty God, like,
absolutely.
that's how I feel. Like,
Mm.
people, that's how I feel about entrepreneurship. I'm like, Jesus, like, are they really like, you know, is
Ready
that?
to fight? They're coming for me.
Yeah, like I'm ready to go get my slingshot. Wait a minute. Hold up. Like, so ever since then, that's what I feel like I have a responsibility. Like, as the years progress, I've become more and more vocal about my beliefs. So in the previous years, I was like, okay, so the situation happened. It got me upset. Like, I realized that was like a point of contention for me. I was like, listen, you know what? Like, I'm gonna do this business thing. Like, there needs to be some example of a Christian woman who's out here killing it, just like how the new age people are killing it too. Like, come on, like, let's go. Who's not actually, like, you know, a first lady or like an actual, you know what I mean? Like, so, and so so then that, you know, but it took some time, because, you know, of course, when you decide that, you know, the devil's in your ears telling you about, you know, your junk you haven't resolved yet, so you don't feel comfortable, you know, saying like, well, if I say, for example, you know, if I say I'm a Christian, but then they see on Facebook like I went to a party next week, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want God, I don't want to embarrass you now, so let me just don't say anything, type of thing. But nothing could be further from the truth, you know. Because Christ died for all of your sins, past, present, and future. So there's no reason for you to stay quiet and to stay hidden. Like, he gave you authority when he rose, you know, from the dead. So it's up to you to take that authority now. And like, that may be true. You might have seen me have a glass of wine on my Instagram or something like that, but I still belong to him. Like, nothing's gonna separate me from him. So it was like that evolution of that person. So now I'm much more adamant about it, because I feel like it's something that people need to see. One of my main beliefs is that entrepreneurship is not just for you. No matter what your business is, whether you're selling candles, lipsticks, it doesn't matter. Like, the success of your business is for the purpose of other people to see what is possible through you with God. So, period. Right? So you can't, like, this is like, you know, I hate to sound
no, not at all
about it, but like, we in a war here, guys. Like, okay, like, and so you do no favors. Like, if you're a soldier, but you're dressed like you're not prepared for battle. Like, you know, who would go out into a war field with high heels and a dress, so to speak? When, you know, you might need to put your boots on, you might need to put your carry your sword and have your armor. Like, we need to. So instead of like trying to milk it down and like, okay, I noticed that even within myself. So I'm not saying this like to make anyone feel bad. Even this year, like, I had a time where I just had to really take time and reevaluate a lot of things in my business, because I felt like, okay, yes, God, I'm telling people that I'm Christian. You know, I shared the motivational scripture quotes too on my Instagram and Facebook, but I didn't feel like I was really impacting anybody for him in that sense. Like, it needs to be more than that. And so that's when now I become much more vocal about my beliefs, and I would probably venture to say, like, as the progression goes further, I'll probably be even much more vocal about it. Because that's another thing too. Like, when we talk about sales, if you get the strategies from him, if you would just ask him, the sales will come. The sales will come. Like, just ask him. So, you know, it's still, you know, it all goes, it still comes full circle. You know what I mean? So hopefully that makes sense.
No, it absolutely does. It's like at the end of the day, your faith is supposed to like seep into every single aspect of your life. It's almost like, you know, you used the analogy of dating earlier, like how people kind of have faith in God for lots of other aspects of their life, but when it comes to finding their mate or their partner or whatever, all of a sudden that's something they do by themselves. I feel also that sometimes in business or in money, you know, people are the same, where we seem to have this idea that there are certain things that are too worldly for God, you know, that he can't kind of dabble into, you know, but actually no, it needs to be, it's holistic basically.
Yeah, it is holistic. Like if you there is a entrepreneur, her name is Tiffany Montgomery, and and she mentioned that if you would go to God like your CEO with a book, like, and have business meetings with him, like how
Right.
you could have business meetings in a normal corporation, like have business meetings with him, like, okay, what should I be selling? What should I be offering? That type of thing. Like it just it just, and I'm not gonna say, I don't want to venture to say like you can't be successful financially without having, obviously that's not true. um but it's the success of like how the Bible talks about like a sweatless victory. Like it's the success of it. It's the success that comes with a clean conscience. Like there's no sorrow
No,
added to it
sorry.
after. You
Yeah.
know what I
Yeah.
mean? So there's a difference there. And it just, you don't have to like strive as hard when you get the instructions right the first time.
Mm.
So for me, like I said, it's something that my faith, uh, my faith has always been, I think, even though the gift was there from little, because I mean, like I said, I was selling stuff at 5 years old. Like I wasn't saved at the time, but so the gifts were naturally, placed in me. But now it's kind of like, how does that go back to giving him honor? How does that go back to giving him glory? That's what I want to do. So I can't do that keeping my mouth shut. You know what I mean? So it's like I have to show up. And a lot of times it's, showing up for people, like, because even for myself, like when I was telling you that story, like when I was talking with my mentor and at the time, and she was like, and I love her, but she's out there doing her moon rituals with crystals and all this other stuff and whatever. And I'm sitting there, that's just to tell you, and I'm sitting there telling her, like, I'm so upset. Like, why are all these Christians walking around broke? Like,
Right.
so it just really pisses me off. And I was like, and people are like paying for, for people to flip cards. Like, you could pray for free.
It's true.
Yo, and you know what I mean? And so it kind of like, it just, I realized then at that point, like I have an obligation as a Christian woman to show up in business and make it known that, this, as for me and my house,
Right.
there might be somebody, coming up who gets that moment, that come to Jesus moment of anger too, if she's in entrepreneurship. So she needs to see people
Mm.
like Nina, people like Indira, like, who on the winning team, but
Right.
um can still, handle business. You know what I
Mm.
mean? So it's so much, it's so important now. It really, but it wasn't something that I realized like first getting into business. It's like as I progressively, as the years pass, I'm like, wait a minute, like that type of thing. And so now it's just, like I said, it just really, I don't know if it's like, God gave me a burden for it, but it just really burns me up. Like it really gets me upset when I think about how much authority we have and how much freedom we have that we don't use
Use.
because we're just like, letting the devil run
Yeah.
roughshod in our lives and in our businesses. So
Absolutely. Yeah. No, agree with everything literally that you just said. It's so, so true. And then even what you were saying about, there might be someone else kind of coming up, in the trenches, if that person is watching and, she's, I don't know, either at the beginning of her entrepreneurial journey or has started it, maybe a bit frustrated with the sales process. Like, do you have any kind of tips or tricks that you can maybe like, share with people at all?
Sure. So, one of the things that I will say will be instrumental to any level entrepreneur, like whether you've been in it for a while, is detach from the outcome and just do the activities.
Right.
Detach from the outcomes and do the activities, because guaranteed, if you're not moving forward in your business, is because you had an expectation, whether it's false or not or true, that a certain thing was supposed to happen, and when it doesn't, then you don't progress.
Yeah.
So detaching from outcomes is one of the things that will really help you to move forward like how you're supposed to, because a lot of times, let's say for example, you feel led to sell a particular thing. We When I say detached from outcomes, it's like for some reason, I'm not really sure like why this is, but for some reason, like we put expectations on business that we don't put on education and career, and then we get upset like with the results. So what I mean is, like, most of us, after we graduated high school, we decided to go to college, or we knew about the existence of going to college. College was something that most of us didn't have the funds for unless we planned for it from back in high school and earlier. So it's a huge investment. It's a huge investment of time. It's a huge investment of energy. It's a huge investment of money. And there's absolutely no guarantee that when you graduate with your degree that you're going to get a job. But we do it happily, gladly, with no problem. But with entrepreneurship, it'll be like, oh, well, I tried to sell this product for like 2 months and it didn't sell, so business is not for me. It's like, come on. Like, or I tried to launch this program, and the launch didn't do well, so okay, we're just gonna scrap it and do the whole thing. Like, you didn't do that when you were in school. You understand what I'm saying? Like, there are many professions like that you go to school, and then after you go to school, like let's say you are a lawyer, you went to school, there's some sort of licensing that you have to pass, or you're not going to be able to, practice law. So it's like you put everything into it, and then, there really was no plan B. You know what I mean? Like you put in your mind, like, it's going to take this amount of time and that you're going to do it. And that's what needs to happen, like, with entrepreneurship. Like, you need to detach from the outcomes and just do the activities. The results will catch up. Bottom line. No. So that would be my biggest advice that I would give. And that's something that, whether you knew or whether you've been in it for a while, like, honestly, that's my number one tip. Like, detach from outcomes and just do the activities anyway. Eventually, you know what I mean? The results have no choice but to show up.
But to follow. No, that makes complete sense. It's actually really funny because I found myself having the same conversation with a friend yesterday, which is, look, don't trust your emotions. Don't wait till you're inspired or, feeling on top of the world. Right? Yeah, like, just do what you need to do and just don't even think about like, completely.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, just detach from outcomes and do the activities anyway, like, because eventually the results will catch up. There was someone that I was listening to on a Facebook live stream the other day. It was a woman entrepreneur, and she is like, multi 7-figure woman entrepreneur. And she was saying that when she first started out, she would do like these, they didn't have webinars back then, but they had like teleseminars, which would be the version of a webinar. And she said that she used to do them and nobody would show up. She would record them anyway and just do the teleseminar, in a good mood, whatever. And she said that she sells those replays now today, like 10 years later, and has made several thousands of dollars off of them. So that's, it just furthers the point, like detach from the outcome, do the activities, the results will show up anyway. Now that's when your faith comes in, like when the results don't come at the time that you want. Now that's when, your faith comes into play. Are you going to continue to keep doing it? Much the same, like if you were trying to lose weight, detach from the scale, just start eating healthy and working out. Eventually, the results is going to show up. Same concept.
So true. Absolutely.
Same concept. But if you don't lose, what we do, we take into business, like if we're using the same analogy, like, oh, well, I didn't lose 5 pounds in the month of October, so I forget it. I'm not going to diet anymore. This is what we do in business. Like, I didn't get my way, like, so I'm not going to do it anymore. We just detach from outcomes as far as that's concerned. And
it's all right.
But yeah, if you would just, it's like I live in a house.
So good. Look at me, I'm still getting over my cold. I feel bad coughing all through this thing. So it's so
But yeah, so if you just detach from the outcome and do the activity, the results have no choice but to show up.
Absolutely.
So that would be my biggest recommendation. And so, like, going back to the analogy of weight loss, if you make in your mind, like, I want to do this because I want to be healthy, not necessarily for numbers on a scale, eventually you're going to get everything you need and then some, because you've actually made a habit now. You didn't just and so I think that that's one of the biggest things that you can do in business, is like, you just show up to do it, whether it's one person on the call or one person buys a product or whatever. Like, you just continue to keep showing up. For sure.
No, absolutely. And even when you said about if you just have in your mind just to be healthy, like, I think even just along with like the whole thing of habits, it's having a big cause. It has to be more than the numbers on the scale. It has to be more than just the, it has to be attached, like a cause for you,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so coming towards like the end, as you know, I love to talk about the women of the Bible and just kind of breaking some of the, I guess, the traditional thoughts of like how Christian women tend to be kind of thought of and stuff like that. So I guess the first thing that I really wanted to ask you is, do you have a favorite woman of the Bible, and if so, kind of why, and how does she like tie into your testimony?
Can I get 2?
Sure.
Because I'm like a 50-50 split. Split, man. So, my favorite woman of the Bible is 2 women. It's Esther and the Proverbs 31 woman. Esther, for me, is my favorite woman of the Bible because she saved an entire nation of people based on, her behavior as far as being patient, waiting on God's timing. And, she took her self-care and taking care of herself first. She spent like a year in preparation, in beauty preparations and stuff like that before she was presented to the king, right? So sometimes you have to, so I think like sometimes before you want to go out there and win souls and do all of it, like to be there for your family, be there for your friends, your kids, like you have to have a time it's not selfish to invest in your self-care when, and ultimately if you didn't, like if she never got the king's eye, she wouldn't have been able to save those people. So sometimes so that's why I really love her example, because she's an example in the Bible of showing like how taking time for yourself, for your self-care, your beauty, your, the things that are going to make you feel good. They ultimately make you attractive to the people who you need to be attractive to. And from there, you make a greater impact in the world. So she's my favorite for that. And then the Proverbs 31 woman is also my favorite because she's just bald.
Right.
Yeah, listen, she's bald. Like, she's just the ideal. Like, her husband praises her. She got multiple revenue streams. She helps the poor. So it's not like, okay, she's rich and she's an entrepreneur, but she also, her hand extends to the needy. Like, she's bald. Like, it's just I don't even know how else more like I can explain. So she's definitely my second favorite. But those are my two.
I love it. I love it. And so, if you had to kind of finish this sentence, so I am a Christian woman who is, what would you say?
I am a Christian woman who is on fire for the Lord.
Yes.
And I am a Christian woman who believes that you can attract blessings instead of chasing problems.
Ooh, I like that. I like that. Attract blessings. I'm noting that attract blessings rather than chasing problems. It's true. It's true. And so if you had to kind of flip that on its head, and so I'm a Christian woman who is not, what would you say?
I'm a Christian woman who is not. What am I not? I'm a Christian woman who's not in business by myself. I recognize that everything that I do has an impact.
Yeah.
And that my whole purpose in being in business is to show other people what is possible through God in me.
Yeah, amen. Absolutely. Absolutely. And do you have kind of any other words of encouragement before we end? And also feel free to let people know where they can find you and connect and all that sort of
Oh,
stuff.
sure. So what would I say? Parting tips. I would say that just remember, like I said before, whenever you're faced with like fear and you are faced with like a lack of faith or something like that, I would say look at stories of people who have been successful.
Yeah.
Because they have all failed. All.
Yes.
You will never look at a success story and not read equally what's the word I'm looking for? Like it might not be as public, but it was equally as devastating to the person, like whatever failure was. So like for example, Oprah was fired from a job because they said that she was not empathetic enough. And it's like, Oprah.
I know, right?
It's like the poster child of empathy. Like she got fired from a job because they said she didn't have enough empathy. Recently, I shared on my page about the person who created FedEx. Like they talked about his idea of overnight delivery was not reasonable. So there's always something like, so anytime you feel like you want to give up, you look at other people, and it doesn't have to be like, it could be people now, but it could also be people in the Bible too. Like look at them, like look at where they succeeded, but also look at where they failed. Like in spite of those things, they kept going. So you can keep going.
Yeah.
And then so that would be like one of my tips that I would share. And then the other thing that I would say, as far as entrepreneurship and sales, like recognize that selling there's nothing sleazy about it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's literally you are selling all the time, whether you acknowledge it or not. So even to be on the job that you had to go on an interview, right? And what was that? You were given a sales presentation on yourself.
Yeah.
For them to hire you.
Yeah.
So you pick a spouse, you pick a mate. Your dating process was really sales transaction because you wanted to let the person know, like, I'm the one.
Yeah.
You need to marry me, right? We need to. So you're selling all the time, whether you acknowledge it or not. So when it comes to business, there's no shift, there's no separation. You need to recognize that whatever it is that you're bringing to the marketplace should be helping people in a way that makes you feel good. And if so, then sales won't be a problem for you.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
what about where people can find you as well?
Oh, okay. So I have a three-part video series because, like I said, I believe that selling is relationship based first
Mhm.
and foremost. And so I have a three-part video series called Three Ways to Grow Your Business Through Relationships. And so you can download the three-part video series by going to indirapearl.com/ROI opt-in.
Okay.
So
Perfect. I'll make sure also that I put all of that in like in the show notes and all of that sort of stuff so I can like quickly access it and stuff. But Indira, I just wanted to say thank you so much. And also very publicly, not even just for, this interview and our chat and everything, but in case people don't know, this lady has been a support system for me for like what, over a year now? Like
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
just over, like honestly, like all the times where I'm having my moments, in sales where I'm kind of going or whatever the case may be, this is the lady who I have turned to. This is the lady who has supported me through and coached me through. So I just wanted to thank you so much for
You are so
your words of
welcome.
wisdom, but
You
also
are
for
so
your love
welcome.
and support, honestly.
You are so welcome. I love it. I truly love you, and it has been my pleasure to mentor you in your business. And really, I what I loved working with you the most is that you take action like immediately. Like it's so refreshing. Like it's so refreshing because Nina's like, "What are we doing? Like, what? Okay, she's off to the races." So I know because of that attitude, you will be successful. Like I know, you know, your business will be blessed just by the nature of you just have the spirit of obedience. Like if you know that, whether or not you may yeah, I think it's part of like all of us have that time where we're kind of like, okay, God, you want me? Like,
Yeah, right. Yeah.
like I'm supposed to show up on video? Like that type of thing. Like but and then so it's just been refreshing to watch your growth. In the last year, it's been so refreshing to see you just really step even more into what God is calling you to do. And I feel like it's just going to be amazing to watch. So I'm excited to be a part of your support team
Thank
because I know
you.
that great things are coming for you for sure.
Oh man. All right, sending you virtual hugs, virtual hugs. And with that, I'm gonna say bye.
Bye. Thank you for having me.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for coming.
No problem. Bye bye, everyone.
Bye. How amazing was that interview? Now, if you were just as blown away as I was by all of the pearls of wisdom that Indira just shared, then I would love it if you would like this video. Also, if there's anyone else that you can kind of think of that needs to hear this, that you think absolutely needs to tune in, then share it with them. I say it all the time, sharing is caring, give and you shall receive, all that kind of jazz, all right? The other thing that I would absolutely love to hear as well is what your biggest takeaways were. What were the things that made you go, or aha, whatever it was, let me know in the comments and I'll circle back and we can continue the discussion, okay? And if you'd like to see more of these sorts of videos, awesome interviews from experts, Christian women who are killing the business game, or you would like more encouragement and, stuff to do with mindset work from myself, then also consider hitting the subscribe button below. And don't just hit the subscribe button, hit the bell as well, because then you will be notified as soon as I upload a new video, which is every week, okay? And so guys, with that, I'm gonna love and leave you, and I'm looking forward to the next time that we get to be together. Take care. Bye.